Alright, here's our next video on helping you improve your chess, and I thought I'd play another game against the computer today. My last one I was actually pretty happy with. Played pretty cleanly. That doesn't always happen. Especially I was happy because I was expecting the computer to play the queen sack line, and when he played the psi mission, when he played the rare bishop g5 line, or the rarer bishop g5, I don't know that as well, so I was kind of happy that I played well when I didn't know the opening quite as well. All right, so let's challenge Beth O here. It's the only one they let me play in this kind of mode, and by playing Beth O as opposed to like a human, I can finish in 30 minutes. If we're playing a human, I'd have to almost pause the computer every time they were thinking. All right, so let's do this match. Beth O. Computer will choose the color at random. I get white. All right, so the last few times I think I played the English. I haven't played e4 against Beth O for a while, so let's try e4. e4. I used to play this when I first started for a while. e4, e5. All right, knight f3. d5. Favorite line for Beth O, the center counter. She doesn't do very well with this, but let's see what happens. She plays some different lines. Pawn takes. Queen takes. Knight c3. Queen there. All right, so I can play either d4 or bishop c4. If I play d4 and black plays e4, I can play knight e5. And my knight can go to c4 if I have to. If pawn takes pawn, knight takes, queen e5 check, and then I can play something like bishop e2 or bishop e3. All right, I want to break open the center in this kind of position, so let's play d4. d4, e4. All right, so we already said what we're going to do here. We're going to play knight e5. My knight can always come back to c4 if I have to, so let's do it. Knight e5. Bishop e6, stopping my idea of playing bishop c4. I can play knight c4, and if the queen moves somewhere other than b4, I can take the e4 pawn. And if he takes with the bishop, I win the bishop pair in a tempo to develop. So let's look at knight c4, bishop takes c4, bishop takes c4, queen to b4. I can just play bishop b3, that's okay, or queen e2. Should be good. Knight c4. If he hits my knight again with queen to a6, I can play knight to somewhere with a discovery on the queen. Can he play queen to g5? No. e5? No. I think I'd like to win the bishop pair here. All right, let's do that. Knight to c4. All right, there's that queen to b4 idea. Well, he can't take my knight if I attack the queen, so if I play a3, he's going to go back to like e7. And then I could even maybe play, well, I can't play knight takes e4 because bishop takes c4 wins a piece, but I could play like bishop e3 threatening knight takes e4. I could also play d5, which is a pretty interesting move after that. I can play d5 right away. d5, bishop moves, then a3. I'd rather leave the d5 square open for other pieces. d5, bishop f5 guards the e pawn. a3, he has to play queen e7. What else could I play? He's threatening bishop takes c4, so I don't have that many moves I can play. a3 definitely saves the knight on c4. Queen e7, then d5. I don't like d5. d5, bishop f5 doesn't seem to be helping me. Just really want to block this bishop in so he can't castle. Although he can't play knight c6 because of d5. If I play d5 and he can't play knight c6, he'd have to play knight d7. So that's not too bad. All right, well, let's play a3. See what happens. a3. Okay, that's what I thought. He almost had to do that. All right, so knight takes e4 is impossible because the bishop takes c4. d5. If bishop f5, I can play knight e3 followed by bishop c4. The nice thing about d5 is it stops knight c6, because if I play bishop e2 and he plays knight c6 and I play d5, he could play castle queenside. And that's a little bit awkward. d5, bishop f5, knight e3 followed by bishop c4 or bishop b5 check. That looks pretty good. I want to play d5 before he develops the queen knight, because then he'll put a rook on d8. My pawn on d5 is a little bit loose, but I've got some good stuff going. d5, bishop f5, knight e3 followed by bishop c4. Then maybe queen e2. Looks pretty good. All right, let's play d5. Bishop all the way back to c8. Okay, very good. So now I'm ready to develop my king side. He's going to play knight f6 and hit the pawn. That doesn't bother me. Bishop e2 followed by castle king side. I could also castle queen side here. I could play a move like bishop f4 with the idea of playing d6 in some lines. Bishop f4, if he plays queen c5, he's not really threatening anything. I'm also threatening maybe queen to e2, hitting the e-pawn. Am I threatening bishop c7 followed by d6? I don't think so. Bishop f4. If he hits the bishop, if he plays knight f6, I can play like queen d2 and castle queenside. I kind of think bishop f4 looks like a good idea. Bishop e3 is good. Bishop e2 is good. I have a good position. d6 right away. C takes d6, knight takes d6, check. Queen takes d6, loses a piece. All right, let's play bishop f4. Okay. All right, so we moved the bishop twice. So now I could still play knight e3 if I wanted, but I don't really say I have to do that. So let's look at d6. d6, if he moves the queen, I take the pawn on c7. If he takes, I take back check with the knight. He can't take with the queen. If he goes to discover check, I win everything. So I think I'm winning a pawn with d6. d6, queen to h4. I could play either g3 or bishop g3, followed by d takes c7. That looks pretty good. d6, queen e6, d takes c7, threatens queen d8 mate. He could play bishop e7, of course. But that also, d6 also clears the way for knight d5. I gotta think that I'm almost winning here. d6, c takes d6, knight takes d6 check, king to the d file, knight takes f5 check, can't be played. So he has to move the queen. If he attacks the bishop, I can save it. None of my other pieces are loose. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. All right. I could play knight b5 first, but if I play knight b5, he can just play knight a6. And then he could maybe castle queenside. I really don't want to let him get a chance to do that. All right, let's play d6 first. Okay, he does attack the bishop. So now I have a choice between g3 and bishop g3. Bishop g3 is kind of the obvious move. Takes the bishop out of the center. g3 hits the queen. Where would the queen go? He could go to g4 and threaten to trade queens, but he can do that under anyway. I save the bishop. I want to hit the queen while I'm saving the bishop so that I can take on c7 and threaten queen d8 mate. Well, queen d8's not mate with the queen on the diagonal. If I play g3, he can go to d8. If he goes to if I play g3 and he goes to queen g4, I can play bishop e2. And then when I take the pawn on c7, I'm threatening queen d8 mate. If I play g3 and he plays queen f6, I can play knight d5 and knight c7 check. If he plays queen d8, then I play d takes c7, queen takes d1, rook takes d1. and all kinds of threats. So maybe g3 is better, because on bishop g3, he can go queen to g5, and then I could play h4. Also, g3 lets me fianchetto the bishop and hit the e-pawn, but that's not a big deal here. If I play g3 and he later plays g5, I have safe squares for the bishop. If he plays bishop g4, I just take the queen, he takes my queen, I take back, and I want a piece. All right, let's play g3. g3. Queen f6. So I can play knight d5 now, and then play knight takes c7 check. I could also play d takes c7, and when the knight moves, I could do something, like play knight d6 or something. But I think knight d5, followed by knight c7 check, is really, really strong. Knight d5, queen d8, knight c7 check, king d7, knight e5 check, king to c8. Boy, that looks like fun. I could, of course, win the rook, too. All right, well, knight d5 is kind of a killer move here. He could play queen g6. Then I have knight c7 check, king d7, knight e5 check, winning the queen. All right, so knight d5 is winning here. Let's play it. Knight d5. Queen g6. All right, here we go. Knight to c7 check. He has to play king d8. I can just take the rook. Can I trap the queen first? Knight to e5. Knight to e5. If bishop g4, I can just take it with anything. If he plays queen e6, I have knight c7 check. I think knight e5 is better than knight c. When you see a good move, knight c7 check, maybe look for a better one. I like knight e5 first because he can't play queen f6. I think I'm winning a piece. I think he has to play bishop g4 or queen g4. Well, I can't play queen g4. I think he has to play bishop g4. So knight e5, bishop g4. Okay, so I can play knight c7 check. Then he has king e8. Then I have knight takes f7 check. Then he has king c8. Wonder if I can mate him there. I probably can. So I'm winning at least a piece. Knight takes c7 check. I can always play later. Knight e5 first looks pretty good. Well, he could play queen takes d6. Yeah, queen takes d6 kind of spoils the fun. All right, so if I play knight c7 check and then knight e5, he can play queen f6, but then I can play knight back to d5 again. It's pretty interesting. All right, so knight c7 check, king d8, knight e5. If queen f6, then bishop g5, queen takes g5, knight takes f7 check. Well, that's very nice. I like that. I saw Mike Glick play a game like that once where he missed that. Knight takes c7 check, king d8, knight e5, queen f6, bishop g5, queen takes g5, knight takes f7 check, king moves, knight takes g5. All right, so knight takes c7 check, king d8, knight e5. If he plays queen, well, he really doesn't have any. He has to play bishop g4 anyway. All right, well, that's even better because he doesn't have queen d6. Knight takes c7, king d8, knight e5. If queen takes d6, then knight takes f7 check. Yes, okay. So knight c7 check first is the most accurate. Check. Okay, now knight e5. If queen takes d6, knight takes f7 check. King takes c7, knight takes d6. He can't even take back. Queen g5, I have bishop g5. Queen g4, he can't boost. So he has to play bishop g4. And then I can play queen takes g4. I could even play knight takes g4. I could even move the queen. And his queen's almost trapped. All right, let's play knight e5 and see what he does, and then we'll figure it out. Because knight e5 is really strong. Knight e5, queen takes d6, knight takes f7 check. All right, let's do it. Okay, so I have the famous combination bishop g5, queen takes g5, knight takes f7 check, king moves, knight takes g5. Bishop g5, he does any other move, I can play bishop takes f6 check. All right, so when you see a move that wins like that, check it a few times before you play it. Bishop g5 pins the queen to the king, queen takes g5, knight takes f7 check. Wins the queen for a piece. Maybe he can get my d pawn out of that, who cares? Do I have anything better? I don't see anything better. Knight f7 first, no. Knight c6 check, no. Queen d5, nice but not as good. Bishop g5, he can't take my knight, his queen's pinned at the king. All right, bishop g5 it is. Bishop g5, queen takes. All right, I got to play knight f7 check, not much to think about. Knight f7 check. King over there, let's take the queen. Knight takes g5. h6. Okay, well, I can get the knight back in the game. Knight f7. King 8, rook h7. Knight e5. Looks good. I'm hitting both rooks on knight f7. I guess on knight f7, rook h7, I can just play knight takes a8, I guess. Although my knight on c7 is probably better than his rook on a8. He can't really save that rook. Can I mate him here with queen d5 hitting the bishop? Queen d5. Bishop takes d6. Just play knight f7 first. Knight f7. Okay, now queen d5. Queen d5 has a discovery on the knight on g8, hits the bishop immediately. And if bishop g6, then queen e6 check, knight d7, queen takes g6, at least wins the bishop. I think I'm winning the bishop. If bishop takes d6, queen takes d6. If g6, queen d5, g6. That's probably his best move. Queen d5, g6. What would I play? Bishop h3 doesn't work. g4, probably not right. How about bishop to a6? No, that doesn't quite work. Cute, though. I can queen d5, g6. He's hitting my knight. I could always take the rook, knight takes a8. Can't be bad. Queen d5, g6. d6, 7 check doesn't work. Queen takes b7 doesn't work. I guess I could just play bishop to b5. Or I can play knight to... Well, I can't play knight e6 because the queen would be guarding the knight. I can play knight e5, but then he has knight f6, and I'm letting him develop with tempo. Queen d5, g6, and then he can play knight f6. Could just take the rook right away, obviously. Bishop b5, everything wins. Queen d4. If I get the queen to the c-file, I might have a mating attack. Bishop b5, a6. I don't need the rook, but I'll take it. Doesn't matter. Knight takes rook. Good enough. Bishop e6 hits my knight. Okay, let's just save the knight with knight e5. No sense fooling around. Knight e5. Knight d7. Let's hit that bishop. Well, if I hit the bishop, let's trade the knight first. Trade the knight first. Knight takes. Bishop takes. And now we'll play... So let's calculate this. Queen d5, knight f6, queen c5, check, bishop c6. Doesn't matter. Let's just get the knight out. Knight c7. I'm sure it's not the best move, but I'm winning. King d8. All right. Bishop b5 looks nice because I can trade off and guard some squares. Let's just do that. Develop a piece. Bishop to b5. Okay. Now if I play queen to d5, knight f6, I have queen a8 check. That's pretty strong. All right, so let's do that. Queen to d6, d5. Bishop takes d6. Yeah, he's getting desperate now. All right, let's just take the bishop and pin his bishop. He's going to play knight f6. Oh, he just gives me that. I guess he saw that was hopeless too. All right, so it's mate in a few. I have to guard the b7 square. I can probably do it by taking the bishop and moving the knight. Doesn't matter. Queen takes d7 check. I'm sure if I take some time, I can find the fastest mate. All right, every knight discovery is going to be good. Knight to a6 discovered check. King to a8. Queen, bishop c6 is mate. Better than mating with the queen. All right, let's do that. Knight a6 check. And let's mate with the bishop and the knight.
Checkmate.
I like that. Okay, so that shows what happens when your opponent falls a little behind in development. His queen was a little awkward, and I was able to win some tempos. So it was a good tactical win by me. I'm sure at the end I could have won a little easier, but that was pretty easy. So when I play e4, when he plays that... queen's pawn counter gambit. I guess some people call it the elephant gambit. He's not supposed to play queen takes d5. He's supposed to play e4 in that position instead, and then I play queen to e2. So the way he plays it, I get some tempos. And you saw how many times he moved the queen. Let's go back and look how many times he moved the queen in the opening there. So 1 queen move, 2 queen moves, 3 queen moves, 4 queen moves, 5 queen moves, 6 queen moves, 7 queen moves, 8 queen moves, 9 queen moves in the first, let's see, that was move 16. So 9 out of his first 16 moves were queen moves, and it ended up with him losing his queen. If you've never seen this tactic before, it's why you study basic tactics really, to know them backwards and forwards. This idea that you can pin the queen and then save it with a fork with bishop g5. If you've never seen that before, it's worth studying because it comes up once in a while. As I said, one of my students, Mike Glick, who later became a master, he missed this in a game he was playing at St. Joe Prep. I remember one year, I think he was probably still in high school then. And Mike was already around 2000. And he had that in the opening, and he won the game easily. And after the game, I said, Mike, can I show you in the opening? He says, yeah. And I got to a position that was a little bit like this, and I said, did you look at bishop g5? And he kind of just smiled and looked at me like, how did I miss that? All right, Mike, if you're watching the video, thanks for the memory. Okay, so I think this was game number 8, played against the computer. So if you enjoyed the game, you can put a like next to it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe. The whole idea of these games against the computer is to show you what a master's thinking about when he's thinking out loud. And if you say, well, this computer wasn't very good this game, well, the computer's beat me once in a blue moon. And, you still want to see if your opponent plays wrong, how do you punish your opponent? Because you want to be able to do things against your opponent when he makes, secondary moves. My opponent didn't put his pieces on pre or anything, but he just wasted enough time that I was able to get ahead and really do things with my pieces. So, you want to be able to take advantage of games when people do that. If you like the channel, again, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.